During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange human-like creature sparked brief local media interest before apparent blackout was extended. Little to no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of creatures mysteriously were destroyed, primarily focused on the rural New York state and once found Idaho. Self-proclaimed that the witness told stories of their encounters with the creature of its unknown origin. Emotions range from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort to almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories remained powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for answers that year. In early 2006, the collaboration had been accumulated nearly 2 dozen documents dating from between the 12th century to the present day, spanning at least 4 continents. In almost all cases, the stories were identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some excerpts from their upcoming book. Now, the note from 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel that it is necessary to indulge any guilt or pain I have introduced throughout the act. This is not the fault of anyone other than him. For once I woke up and I felt his presence, and once I woke up and saw his face, once again I woke up and heard his voice, and I looked around in his eyes. I could not fall asleep with the fear that I might wake up to experience. I cannot ever awake again. Found in the same wooden box with the envelopes addressed to William and Rose. The one loose letter had no envelope. Dearest Linny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry was translated from Spanish in 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me with pierced me. His wet hand, I cannot sleep. His voice was unidentifiable. The murderer's log from 1691. He came into my room in my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England, and we shall not return here again at the request of the Rake. A witness from 2006. 3 years ago, I just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls with my family on the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids to bed and called it a night. About 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had got up to use the restroom. I used the moment to seal back the sheets, only to wake him up in the process. I apologized to him and told him that I thought he got out of bed when he turned to face me, and he gasped as he pulled his feet up to the bed, quickly as the knee. As we almost knocked me out of my bed, he then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for a half second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting facing away from us, was there that appeared to be a man, or a large hairless dog of some type. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned of its condition. At this point, I was somewhat of assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into a fetal position, and occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled around the side of the bed, then crawled quickly, falling into what sort of a motion right along the bed, with less than a foot from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, or closer to 5, as it just seems like a while, just looking at my husband. The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran down the hallway leading to the kids' rooms. I screamed and ran for the light switch. Was just enough to see it crouching and hunching over about 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood, and I flipped on the switch on my wall to see my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was badly injured and spoke only once more for a short life. She said, "He is the Rake." My husband then dove into the lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. They did not survive. Being in a small town, the news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took interest in it as well. However, the story was never published to the local television news, never followed it up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed at a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for some answers for myself. I eventually located the man in the town next over who had a similar story. When we got into contact, he began talking about our experiences. He knew of the two people in New York who had seen the creature we have referred to as the Rake. It took the four of us at least 2 solid years of hunting down on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what believed to be the accounts of the Rake. None of them have given any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving a creature in its first 3 pages, but it's never mentioned. Again, a ship's long log explained ain't nothing about the encounter, saying that they were told to leave by the Rake, but that was the last of the entry log. There are, however, many instances where the creature's visits were one of the series of visits with the same person. Multiple people have mentioned being spoken to, my daughter included. This led us to wonder if the Rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night and every night. For the 2 weeks, I would technically scan the sounds rolling around on my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the second week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep and blurring out the recording at least 8 times at normal speed. This still looks like about almost an hour a day. On the first day of the third week, I thought something was different. I found it was a shrill voice. It was the Rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I still haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I have listened to it and heard it before, and now I believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at this time, but for some reason the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back at that moment. The thoughts that might have still gone through my daughter's head and make her very upset. I may have not seen the Rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been seen in my room while I slept. I know that fear one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. And that, my little pretties, was The Rake. A creepypasta. A classic one, in fact. My final thoughts on the story? Well, it's been quite a while since I last sat there and, took a look at the story. And I gotta say, this is actually one of the, classic creepypastas that, I think this is like an old one, so I'm sure this was written in 2000 I guess you could say 2012 or maybe 2011 or something. I'm not really sure when this was written, but I could definitely say that this story was actually a pretty messed up story. But although it's a good one at that, like, I have actually heard about a few narrations of this story. Like, I've actually seen a few narrations of this story, and I have to say, this story was definitely something. Like, I've seen at least a few, narrations of this story, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and narrate it because why not? I was, curious as to, I should I narrate this story? So I decided to go right ahead and narrate this story, which I did just that, and I'm definitely saying this right now that this story was actually quite freaky. Like seeing this creature, whatever it is, you know, haunting you. It's just really messed up in general. It's still pretty good, don't get me wrong. Like, I still really enjoy, the fact that, the story has, this creature. I'm not gonna lie, it's a really well made story. I definitely would have to say that I really do like how this story went out. It's a pretty well made story. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into it. I definitely would have to say that I've been kind of wanting to do this narration for a while. I just haven't had the time because I've been busy, but I finally had the chance to sit there and, well, take a look at this story. And I would have to say it's a freaky story, to be honest. It's a really well made story. There's definitely a lot of, the grammar of this story is good, along with the sentence structuring, the paragraph structuring. I'm not gonna lie, it's a really well made story. I know this is like a very old story, so I'm willing to say that I really find this story to be, well, amazing and well done. So I definitely would have to say this is actually an old story, but it's a classic one. So there's definitely a good concept with this story. So I guess with that being the case and with that being said, I guess I'm gonna have to, sit here and say that it's based on an urban legend, which is really neat because not a lot of creepypastas really tend to do that. Like, I'm not joking. Not a lot of creepypastas really tend to do that. So there's definitely that. Not a lot of, creepypastas tend to do that. So yeah, that's definitely that. So anyways, with that being the case and with that being said, I really do find this story to be, well, quite amazing and well done. I really do find this one to be, well made, detailed. Really do find this one to be enjoyable. Now, anyways, with that being the case and that being said, I'm gonna if I'm not sure who the original author is, so it's gonna remain anonymous unless I find out who the original author is. If I do find out who the original author of this story is, I'll be sure to give him or her proper credit. But yeah, it's just gonna remain anonymous for now. But I would definitely have to say, pretty good pasta. It's a really good classic one, and I really recommend you guys take a look and read this one. If you guys want to take a look at it, feel free to read it. It's a pretty good story. So, anyways, with that being the case, and with that being said, I'm gonna sit there and wrap up the review because there's not really much to, say. But I'm gonna definitely say, yeah. With that being the case, that being said, I'm gonna say this like I'm gonna always gonna say, and like I always continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It's a good, enjoyable creepypasta. It's definitely a classic, and it's definitely one that you guys should really check out if you, want to see a really interesting pasta. I highly recommend you check this one out, as this one was flat out amazing, and it's really well done in detail, and I really do like how it's got a lot of good believability in this story, so there's definitely that. So, I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.